Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The pressure grows on Humza Yousaf to uncouple the gravy train of the SNP from the rickety old caboose of the Green Party. And this time, it's ex-Business Minister Ivan McKee who's calling for it. He says that the Greens' attachment to the SNP is damaging the party, with over 9 out of 10 businesses saying that it is damaging and that they don't trust the SNP because of it. Because, of course, the Greens are anti-business, anti-industry, anti-growth, anti-pretty much else as well. They're not very good at anything, are they? And so he's asked for the Butte House agreement to be set aside for the two parties to break up and go their separate ways. This, of course, would help everyone by getting those two mad ones, the Leprechaun and Jeffrey, out of government, and it would also help the SNP by basically getting rid of what could be seen as a cancerous growth. And it's a case of losing that little green tail that's wagging the big yellow dog. And that is the feeling, of course, of the majority of the party. It's really only Humza Yousaf and his little coterie at the top that demand that the Greens stay, because he has aligned himself so tightly that breaking up the Butte House agreement would be seen as a personal attack on him, as a personal loss by him. He'd be humiliated and lose face. I don't know what he's worried about. He's got no face to lose. He's a fairly faceless entity. Anyway, we'll take a look at this piece, see what's going on, see what exactly Ivan McKee is saying. Here goes. So Humza Yousaf under growing pressure to axe Scottish Greens as yet another SNP rebel blasts the party. Former Scottish Government Business Minister Ivan McKee blamed Lorna Slater and Patrick Harvey's party for the damning opinion businesses have of the SNP executive, with less than 1 in 10 companies having faith in them to support the private sector. I'm surprised it's as few as 1 in 10, and not something, or as many as 1 in 10 rather, and not something like 1 in 100, because they must look at this lot and realise that they just basically don't have a clue. Anyway, there's Ivan. Former business minister, but no longer, sitting on the back benches. Humza Yousaf is under growing pressure to reconsider his party's partnership with the Scottish Greens after yet another SNP rebel publicly attacked the coalition partners. It's happening more and more. It's increasing number of people, backbenchers and somewhat senior people as well, within the party are all saying it's time that this particular agreement comes to a close. Former Business Minister Ivan McKee condemned environmentalists for damaging the Scottish Government's relationship with the private sector. He spoke out following research that found that the First Minister's boast of resetting the relationship with business had failed. Well, he should be used to that. Everything he does fails, so why should this be any different? As less than 1 in 10 companies thought the SNP executive actually understands the sector. Mr McKee claimed that the blame for this lies with the Greens. Of course they don't understand the sector. They've never been in the sector. None of them ever run a business. None of them have any idea about the economy. None of them have any idea about how accounts works. They're all morons. So of course nobody trusts them. Previously, other nationalist rebels have described Patrick Harvey and Lorna Slater's party as hard left extremists. They are Marxists. As a growing chorus to ditch the Butte House agreement has formed. Fergus Ewing, God bless him, voted to axe Miss Slater from the government following the deposit return scheme debacle. Unfortunately, he was the only one on the SNP side to do so. Now, Mr McKee has also indicated that he does not support the ongoing coalition in government. He told the Scottish Daily Mail, clearly, the Greens take a different view of business than the SNP, and businesses will not see that, in many cases, in a positive light. No, because businesses are looking at the SNP Green government as one single, monolithic thing. They're not seeing the difference between Green and SNP. They're hearing the rhetoric of the Greens. They're applying it to the SNP, and they're thinking this bunch of bozos don't understand what we're doing. They don't want to help. They don't want to support us. And so we need to be very, very careful and maybe not make as much investment in Scotland just in case. And that's the problem. They're dividing and they're splitting. And they're stopping investing. It's the way it's communicated. It's the sentiment. And it's what business hears, he continued. It's probably made the challenge of government being seen to be on business's side harder than it might have been. And a lot of this comes from the very top. So the sentiment and tone set at the top is very important. And the Scottish Greens have previously been described as anti-capitalism. Well, of course they are. Marxists are anti-capitalist. And they have no plans to help power up Scotland's economic growth. And this has seeped out into policies which they are pushing in government, including the highly protected marine areas and rent controls. Two things designed to destroy industries and sectors. And there they are, Geoffrey and the leprechaun, enjoying a day out. Geoffrey's going, where are our politics going? And he's pointing to the left. Research by Fraser of Allender found that just 9% of 400 firms surveyed believed that the SNP executive understands business, compared with 64% who believed it did. They say did, they mean did not. Figures also showed that only 8% of companies agree that ministers engage effectively with the sector, while 67% disagree. This isn't like a very close call, you see. We did these figures the other day. It's not a close call. It's massively one-sided. McKee added that the influence of the Greens was absolutely one of the factors causing these issues, and that the power sharing deal was damaging his party. Other Nats who want to reconsider the agreement include Kate Forbes and Joanna Cherry. There's lots of them. They're all starting to come out of the woodwork now. It just took one or two, especially the key names, to come out. Then others felt confident to do so. And I think it's going to get to the point where you're going to start to see ministers questioning it. And the moment that happens, the ministers will either have to resign, or Humza Yousaf will have to capitulate and end the agreement. And I think he'll capitulate because he doesn't have a spine. He doesn't have the ability to, to fight the good fight. Nicola Sturgeon, she would have shut this down a long time ago because she did have the spine. She had the balls. Got to be fair to her. Hate her, hate her politics. Can't abide her. But I admired her balls. She did actually have a pair. The business sector has spoken out about more regulation and restriction that the government have been trying to impose, despite many firms struggling following the COVID pandemic and now a cost of living crisis. These include the tourist tax, short-term licensing and a potential blanket ban on alcohol advertising, which is madness. Alcohol is one of your biggest exports. Why would you destroy it? Mary Spowage, director of the Fraser of Allender Institute, revealed that she was shocked by the amount of negativity towards the SNP Greens administration from businesses, adding, "We weren't expecting results to be great, but we were surprised by just how negative firms were about the Scottish Government's understanding of their concerns." I'm not surprised. I'm only surprised that it's as high as it is at 9%. Honestly thought it would be way lower than 9%. The government's economic secretary and idiot Neil Gray admitted that the report highlighted that the more is needed to show that the Scottish Government is working alongside the business community. But it clearly isn't. They're not listening. The businesses say to them, do this, we need this. And the Scottish Government does the complete opposite in every case. And in fact, oftentimes when they're having meetings, they won't actually, the device policy, they won't actually invite the businesses concerned with this policy into the meetings, because the last thing they want to hear is experts on the subject telling them what needs to happen, because that expert will tell them that this is what happens, and it goes totally against what they want to happen, because they are all, and we all say it together, children, aren't we? They're all morons. Scottish Conservative finance spokesman Liz Smith added, "The SNP government's. I'm going to give you a tick here, Daily Express. Well done, Scottish Conservative finance spokesman Liz Smith. You haven't gone to that spokesperson or spokeswoman, right? Because spokesman is generic, isn't it? Well done, well done. A hark back to the sensible days." Anyway, the SNP government's record on growth is so bad that Humza Yousaf has had to announce a reset with business, effectively acknowledging his party's total failure over a decade and a half. Even former SNP ministers like Ivan McKee are criticising the Greens' militant anti-growth agenda. But Humza Yousaf shows no sign of listening to his old critical colleagues or to Scottish businesses. No, because he cannot listen to things that change. You see, and especially I think it's cultural with him. I think he cannot change because of his religion. And this isn't a religious argument. What I'm saying here is, because his religion is unflinching and unchanging, he has this mindset that when you believe in something, you must believe it regardless of how stupid it may be. You must never change. And you can present facts and he'll ignore facts because dogmatic belief. And I think that's part of the problem with him. He's had this dogmatic belief and he cannot change his mindset because of how he was raised as a boy. You must believe this, must believe this, must believe this. Even when it's clearly complete and utter crap, you must believe it. And that's filtered into his political life. And it's so damaging, isn't it, when you get a moron in charge who will not listen to experts. Anyway, I shall round up and come up. So how long and how loud do people have to yell at Humza Yousaf to break the agreement, to get rid of the Greens? I think he will hang on to the bitter end, but I think ultimately his grasp on the Greens will be his undoing. I think unless he is prepared to release them, to break the Butte House agreement, I think it will ultimately break his leadership. I think that will be the cause, the catalyst, indeed, of the any leadership challenge will be this alignment with the Greens. I just think there's so many now within the party that want it to happen, that want them to go, that I don't think it's tenable for him to be leader and demand that they stay. So it's all, I think, in Humza Yousaf's court. What will he do? Oh, to be a leader. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this one if you have, and if you haven't, I'm very grateful that you've stayed this far. Do please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell and leave a like, and of course share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, the Greens are toxic. Bye.